Hello everyone, Michelle here from the Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me today. I was thinking I might start a new journal, using these playing cards that I like to use. I've used these in other videos as well, but I thought I would start using up some scraps. Again, because I have so many of them. I did sort my scraps into these little piles. So I have kind of neutrals here with textures and writing on them. And then I have my plain neutrals, and then I have a couple of others that are like colored and things like that. So I thought I would just start gluing some things down. I'm not sure what kind of journal I want to make, like theme-wise. I do know that I need a new knitting journal. I do love to knit, and I feel like I want to start kind of designing my own. I get a little cocky when I knit, thinking, oh, I've knitted a sweater now. I'm fully capable of designing my own sweater, which is not the case. But in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's take the challenge. And they usually end up frogging it or something, but I can't help it. I'm a very specific size, so a lot of clothing doesn't suit me very well because I'm a big girl, so I'm very picky on how things fit me. And a lot of the pattern designs, even though they can be size inclusive, they're designed for a certain size in mind, usually not my size, and they don't look as well on me once I have kind of knitted it and put it on. I think, well, that doesn't look right. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to start designing my own sweaters and things that with my size in mind, if that makes sense at all. So I like the idea of creating a little journal where I can note my ideas, and my ideas usually come into my head while I'm knitting. And if I have this beside me, I might be able to have a spot to kind of jot it down, which I really like that idea. So that's what I think I'm going to make here. So my book is going to be relatively neutral, which is pretty usual for me. If you follow me at all on my channel here, I do tend to gravitate towards the neutral values when it comes to my journal making, or my, well, when it comes to paper, I like neutrals. So I'm just going to cut around the back here. And these cards I got at a secondhand shop. They're just these really big game cards, and they're kind of fun. And I love using them for journals because they make the perfect size journal for me. Not too big, not too small. So it fits in my purse. I really like the size of them, and I've made a few. So I just like to cover them to start, and then I kind of organize my cover after. I figure I'll probably put something blank here so that if I do decide to end up making it a knitting journal, kind of combining my passions here, I can decorate the front the way I want to. So right now I'm just covering them up with some scraps that I have. And this is a fun way to use up scraps. You know, you can make these and make these master boards. I think that's what they call them when they're like this. I hope I'm in frame here. Where you're, at the end of the day, you're just gluing down all the stuff that's sitting on your desk from another project that you may have been working on. And then these are kind of stamped things that I did, or I think that one was, I think I was cleaning off my brayer from doing some jelly printing. So I keep all my scraps because they're kind of interesting. You know, I didn't need that piece at the time, but what a cool piece of paper that is. It's got some leaves in it. So I tend to keep everything. It drives people in my house crazy. I get upset when they throw their Amazon packaging away. Like, are you crazy? That's gold. Throw that away. And then they just kind of walk away while they roll their eyes at me. That's okay. We all have our weaknesses. And mine is paper. Well, mine is art supplies in general. Anything to do with crafts or art, I love. Maybe a little too much. So there comes a point where I really do have to clean up my studio and purge. But that's okay. There are worse things in life. I'm just going to throw a little bit more glue in there. That's a thick piece of paper. Okay, so I think I like this for my cover. Well, now to attach these, I've got some scrap fabric. I really love this fabric. I showed this fabric in another video that I got from the thrift shop, and I'm obsessed with it. It's just so pretty to use. So I'm just gonna roughly cut this out. So this is kind of like a little craft along with me today. If you want to, get your stuff out. Let's have some fun. I'm gonna do my sewing off camera. As you know, I'm a horrible sewer. And apparently not a very good cutter either. These scissors are nice and sharp. Just want to cut that edge off a little bit. And then I'm going to cut it down because I don't want that much fabric on the... This is going to be my spine. So I could quilt it. I could put a little quilt padding in there as opposed to paper. Combining some elements here. Again, scraps of whatever you have. Maybe you have an old tea towel or something you want to use. I keep these little tins on my desk with bits and bobs in it. So here's some really pretty, here's an old, it's kind of pretty too. Maybe we'll use some of that today. And I'd like to make it a little bit romantic looking. So I think I'm going to use this soft pink, or maybe this one. Let's use this one. When I like this fabric, I started sewing a little birdie on there just to try it, but I don't think I have any more of that fabric left. But I really like how it frays, so maybe I can steal a couple of pieces here just to see if we can incorporate some texture in there. You know what I should use is wool, since it might be a knitting book. I don't have any on my desk right now. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of glue on these just to tack it into place for myself. Let's see, I kept this upside down this time. I think I'll just put it right here. To try and keep this glue flowing. Otherwise it takes 20 minutes to get it to cooperate. I don't want to add too much just because it's got to go through my sewing machine, and I don't want to gung up my sewing machine. So for this, I'll probably give it about 1 inch of a spine, give or take. And I just eyeball it. You can measure it, of course. Take your time. So something like this. I'm not... I like to just have fun with my stuff. I don't like to worry about the sizes and the perfectness. So I just rip off what I don't want. I love that kind of winging it crafts. There are things, obviously, I would take my time at if I want them perfect. But in this case, I'm just having some fun. So what I think I'll do here is I don't have any quilt batting handy, so I will use a scrap. Here's some watercolor, so it's a bit more stable. You could cut another piece of this. Do I have that handy? Another piece handy? No, I don't. So I will just use the scrap watercolor. And I'm just going to cut it maybe 1/8 of an inch shy on either side of this card. And I am, again, just eyeballing. You can take your time and measure all this out and then keep those measurements handy so that when you're ready to do another book, you can just pre-cut a bunch of things and you're ready to rock and roll. I, on the other hand, just kind of wing it because there's a lot of things I tend to accumulate when I'm thrifting. So I don't always make the same size journal. I use what I have handy. And then I did do a video on how I fold things. So I'll show you that in just a sec. I have some papers that I pre-fold because I get huge pads like this from the thrift shop, and they tend to take up so much room. And then I they get lost in the mix, so I forget about them. But if I pre-fold everything, then I'm ready just to kind of cut them and make them fit. Because I know my journals are not full pages. I know that I don't make those size journals. So it kind of works for me to have them prefabbed like that. And then I can trim them down. And that's kind of what I do when I have these big creative blocks. I just tend to kind of prep things when I'm not sure what I want to make. So you can see I've left a little bit of a gap here. I'll bring it up closer in a sec. I left a little bit of a gap in between the papers just so that they have room to fold. And then I'm just going to cover this with this guy. And then I'll cover the inside, and then I'll probably give it a sew. So I'm just going to let that dry while we glue more paper down. Now, if you wanted this to sit on top of the paper, you would glue this down after, but I'm not overly concerned because I'm sewing it all. So when you go to sew, you do want to bear in mind that it's going to go through all this. So it is going to show up on this side. So if you don't want the sewing to show up on the inside of the book, you want to do the sewing now. But I like the texture of the stitch, so it doesn't bother me. So I will just go ahead and finish this. So those are things you want to consider when you are sewing, because you don't have to sew. Just use extra strong glue, and you can omit the sewing completely, which sometimes I do. Just bear in mind where that fold is, because I'm not always in the mood to sew. When I sew, I don't always sew very straight. Okay, I never sew straight. Let's be honest. I never cut straight, and I never sew straight. And that's just how I roll. All right, just throwing down some scraps here. So what kind of journals do you guys like to make? What themes do you like to make? Is it based on a novel that maybe you've read, or a show that you watch, or maybe something you collect? There's so many themes of journals you can do. The possibilities are endless. So in this case, like I said, I want to build it around something for knitting. Because I have an old knitting journal that I bought years ago, and it's kind of full. And I like the idea of a homemade journal now that I'm more into junk journaling than I ever have been before. And I think it's kind of fun and personalized. You know, nobody's going to have this journal but me. I'm going to slide that over. It's on the fold. There we go. Okay. And I think that's kind of fun. It's a sticky paper. And if you have friends who have things in common, you can make them the journals. Oh, sorry if the puppy starts barking. She's just woken up. She must have heard the cars and stuff outside. We have the guys doing the road today, grading the road, because we live on a dirt road, and during the springtime it gets pretty mushy. So she tends to want to bark. And for a puppy, she's got a pretty loud bark. I might have to pause the video here. I'll be back in a second. See if I can get her to settle. We'll see how loud she gets. All right. So I'm just gonna go around now and chop off all the extras. And then I'm gonna throw some sewing in there. So just bear with me. I will be back. See if I can get her settled again. And we will start building the inside of the journal. So you can see I haven't really taken my time to glue things down very well. And that's because I know I'm sewing. So something to consider when you're building your journal. Are you going to sew it? If not, you're going to want to take that extra time and glue it down well. Just cutting all these extra pages off. I'm going to go around with a zigzag stitch as well. And we'll see how it turns out. Just cleaning up these edges here. Okay, before I sew, I like to bend my spine. I like a curved spine. I don't like a rigid spine. So I'm just going to fold this, make sure my fabric sits okay. And I just kind of manipulate that paper inside because I do like the curved look better than the rigid book. Okay, all right, be right back. Okay, so I've sewed around the outer perimeter of the book and up the sides here. And as you can see, I don't change my thread. I use whatever's in there simply because I like the look of the stitching to show up. It just adds a little more something interesting in my opinion. But if you like, you know, more of the blended look, go ahead and switch your threads out. So before I sewed in here, I thought I want to finish decorating the cover. I'm pretty happy with the back, but I might want to add some focal point. So I did want to use this kind of romantic looking thread here. Well, not thread, what is it called? What would that be called? Lace? Lace. Lace is the word I'm looking for. And then I thought I want to do something in the front that's neutral so that I can either write the word knitting book or draw a picture of knitting. I'm not sure, maybe cut something out of a magazine. Just to have something handy to have space to, you know, draw that out and define what's in this book. So I really love the look of this paper, but it's a bit big. Kind of covers all my pretty paper underneath. So I think I'll chop this down a little. Add it to my scraps. And then, now I had her settled. I had the puppy settled, and then I started sewing. She's like, ooh, what's that noise? So she's back. And then maybe some scrap white paper for the title. Kind of works for me. Let's see. I'm not sure I like this pink anymore. Find it maybe a bit too distracting. So maybe something like this. That simple. Something at the top, the bottom, in the middle. I don't know. I think this black is throwing me off. I need something dark at the bottom here to kind of balance that out. Just a strip of that. Kind of balance the weight of the black there down here. Maybe that's what it is. And the brown. A bit of brown up there. Maybe we need some brown down here. Let's see if we like that. Yeah, I think that balances it a bit better. Let's make this a bit smaller. Something like that, like this. This is the funnest part, I think, is kind of doing the final layout of focal point on your cover. I think that's fun. I sure like that paper. Let's go with something else. Oh, look, here's more of the paper that's used. Perfect. That works. Now I have all straight edges, so I'm gonna straight edge some of this. Saw a couple of pieces, actually. My stash here. This is pretty. Just love this. Can't remember how I did it. Okay, so maybe something like that instead. That's nice. Let's straighten this guy out a bit. And none of these are straight, and I'm okay with that. But straight might drive you, if it's not straight, it might drive you bonkers. I still kind of like the look of this paper. Too much. Too much. Okay, I'm overthinking it. Maybe I want to go a little smaller on this. Let's glue this guy down because I'm happy with him. Figure out what I want to do for the cover. Maybe just this. I still feel like this is too big. And I just play, and that's the fun of putting these books together. Just play until you get a design you're happy with. Sometimes it comes naturally, and other times you kind of want to walk away and come back to it because nothing's working for you. And that doesn't mean you're not good at what you're doing. It just means you're off that day, and it happens to the best of us. So try not to get too frustrated with yourself. It's very easy to get frustrated. And it happens to me too, and I just say, okay, today's not the day, and I walk away. I kind of like that. That's kind of fun. Still leaves me options to add things if I want after. So let's just see if I can tack this down, and then I'll sew it in. See what I mean? I gotta leave my glue upside down. I'll throw a little bit on this guy too. Oop. Okay. Again, I'm not doing a full glue down because I'm going to sew. I try not to line my edges up either. I find it kind of gives a little bit more interest when I'm off kilter. So like this line is not visually lined up. This line is not. None of these are. So I find that kind of helps add some interest as well when you're thinking about compositions and stuff and balance and all those things that make the look of the cover appealing. Do I want to add this now? Do I like this? No, I don't. Okay, I'm going to sew this. Okay, so I sewed around the focal point of the journal cover, and then I did a couple of lines down the side where my glue didn't reach the edges, and I like to make sure that all the paper is well adhered to the cover. So, you know, if you like the sewing part, you can really have fun with this. You could do like quilt blocking on it, you know, zigzags. You can really go to town on the sewing, especially if you have a contrasting thread like I have here that really shows up. And, you know, if you're clever with a sewing machine, you can do kind of a floral pattern, all kinds of fun stuff with the sewing machine. I am too impatient to sew well. When that's not true. I sew well when I have to. So if I'm doing like a quilt or curtains or something, I will take my time. But when it comes to paper, I like the unevenness of sewing. I like the messy look. I like the crooked lines and the unraveling. It just appeals to me when it comes to paper. But for those people with OCD, like my friend has, everything has to be perfect and straight. Nothing wrong with that either. So I'm just going to give this a crease here. So there's my cover. Kind of like that. So maybe we'll draw something on here now, or maybe we'll do the inside. So I didn't sew the back yet because I'm not 100% sure if I want to add something. I might want to put some notes back there or a pocket or something. So I'm going to leave that as is for now. Usually I like these little pieces coming off, but because I haven't built the journal yet, they kind of get on my nerves. So I take them off for now. Let's do some signatures. So how do I want to close this book? I usually just use a tie, like an elastic tie, which I'll probably do again. So here's some, I might even use this piece here. Here is some, what's this called? What is this stuff called? Checkered paper. I know it has a name. We use it for math when we were in high school. But it's great for knitting because you can use the squares as stitch counts. So when you're designing something or you're trying to size something up or down, it's great for that. So I'm going to definitely add some of this in here. Now, because I have a folded, I don't have a rigid, what's it called, spine, I have a little bit of flexibility in length here until the book gets full, which I kind of like also, because I'm not good at taking my time building these either. I'm just gonna take this and then maybe a pencil. I want to make sure my paper fits within. Again, I'm not measuring, but you can go ahead and take your time and measure. And I'm only going to cut a couple at a time because I know I will go very crooked. So this will be basically my guide to cut the rest. I'm still going crooked. Doesn't bother me. But some of you out there might be cringing. So this will go in my textured pile of scraps. And I had some tissue paper here, which is great for if there's information or a stitch you want to trace. We can use some of this. I'll throw some of this in there. Again, I still have a little bit of leeway with the length. And I'll just slowly start building up my signatures. Okay, so I've got some of that. What else have I got? I've got some lined paper that runs up and down. We'll use some of this. I'm just making sure I get the length right. Double check. Okay, good. Scraps go in the scrap pile. Let's see, what else have I got? I would like room to write notes, so I don't want paper that's too busy. I want paper that I can write over top. So here's another cluster of prefabbed folded paper. This might work. The music notes are a little too busy. They're fun for a decorative junk journal, but I want this to be a little bit more functional for writing. Here's some message paper, which is lined. So we'll use that. So let's use one of these. So you do have to be mindful of what's going in paper-wise for your journal, because you have to think of the function. So say if you're a baker or you're making a journal for a baker, they're going to want room to write notes in, right? They're going to want to be able to write in the journal, not just draw or decorate it, but actually use it as more of a functional writing journal. Because a lot of the journals I make are more decorative. I've got a little bit of writing room for notes for my gardens and things like that, but primarily they're more aesthetic to look at than they are to actually function. I hope that makes sense. So this one I want to be able to write my notes, add some drawings, or maybe even staple the, what's that thing that wraps around the wool, you know, for future notes so that I know what kind of wool I used. Pattern altercations, things like that. Which may not apply to you. Maybe you're not a knitter, which is totally fine, but the same rule would apply for anything you are making the journal for, like I said, baking or quilting or whatever. So this page is an old accounting page, so you can see it pulls out, which could actually be really handy in this journal because it gives me a lot of room to put notes and stuff in. So I'm going to be mindful of where I'm going to tie this in. See how I folded it here. This is like, it's going to be one of those maps. Can I fold it back up? So I might want to attach it right here and then have all this to open. So I'm going to put a couple of these in and maybe one of these. Nice blank on the other side. Let's put a piece of tissue paper in. I don't plan on adding too many signatures just yet, simply because I want to add more as I go. I don't want to overfill the book. I go through stages of knitting as well, just like you would go through stages of any craft. You kind of challenge yourself to the next step. So this could be, say, my beginner book, because I am a beginner knitter. And it does kind of make a big difference when you've gotten used and better at a craft that you want a new book, because you're ready for new challenges and you want to update, so you can have your beginner and then you can have your master chef book if you're a cooker. But I actually just started cooking sourdough, and I can't explain how bad a cook I am. I'm the most impatient chef you'll ever meet, but I really enjoy the challenge of something new. So right now it's sourdough and I'm really loving it. It's really fun. It's turned out way better than I ever thought it would for me. I just can't believe I actually made a loaf of bread my first time out. I made my own starter. So kind of proud of myself. So maybe I'll make a journal on that journey. So I think that's all I'm going to add for now. Because knowing me, I'm going to staple a lot of information in. Like I said, the round detailed information about the ball of wool will probably go in here. So it's going to get thicker and thicker. So what I would like to do now is find a way to put in these signatures without having to sew, because I don't like sewing. I don't like sewing, hand sewing. So I also like to be able to remove my pages. So I think we'll do, let me grab my tools. Okay, so I've got my giant gator guys here and some of these grommets, I guess they're called. So one thing I noticed when I did this last time is I put the hole way up here, and then I couldn't fit my papers in, because basically I'm going to take something and tie it right through the page. So I need to make sure the hole is right up here at the very edge. However, I may have to trim these down a little more if they go edge to edge, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. So I'm going to put 2 because I want 2 decent size signatures in here that I can add to if I want. So I'm just going to squeeze through here. Hopefully it cuts the fabric. It looks like it did. So I'll just tidy that up a little bit. And just trim away the excess here. And then I think I'll use these coppery gold ones. They're quite pretty. And maybe I'll use the silver on this. Let's try silver. So I'm going to shove that in. So they're right in the spine and very close to the fold here, but not on the fold. I hope I didn't do it on the fold. I'll be able to see in a second. I'm just going to squeeze that in. And repeat that on both sides. Took me a while to figure out how to use this thing. I don't have a lot of tools, but I do love this guy. Okay, so we're good. So the fold is right there, but it's not gonna, it's a little far over actually. So I might have to bend that with a pair of pliers, just so it doesn't stick out. Let's see. Not the end of the world. I don't stress. So you can see how I put it too far on the edge. So I'm just gonna kind of manipulate this a little bit with some pliers and just kind of make it bend a bit. And that way it doesn't stick out, that's all. Oops, too much. Too much. I might have to redo this grommet. I just bent it too much. There we go. Okay, so let's do the other side. Be mindful of that fold to do what I just did. Not that it matters, but it's a neater edge if you pay attention to that. So if you're selling them or something, you really want to take your time and make them nice. For me, I just like to get my hands dirty. I don't sell my journals very often. I'm more about a ephemera maker than I am a journal maker. But every now and then I'll need a new journal and I'll make one. It's nice to have the ability and know how to do it. And I'm always learning something new, you know. Even if you've mastered something, you're always learning something new. So let's get that down there. See if I can get it straight this time. There we go. Okay, so let's see if my papers fit within my journal, and my signatures fit within those grommets without being disturbed. Now it looks like I might have to trim them a wee bit. So of course you can get your paper trimmer out, which I would recommend. So where is my paper trimmer? It's buried. No surprise there. Buried under all my stuff. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way. And jam more in. So maybe I'll open the signatures so I can see what I'm doing. Oh, uh-oh, hang on. Okay, so I'm back. It's actually the next day. I didn't manage to get back to doing this because I got distracted by the puppy and people at the door, and next thing I know it was late afternoon. And so anywho, let's cut these down just a little bit shorter, see if I can do it all in one go here. Almost. My cutter is really needing replacing. I think that will work. That will work. Let's do the same with these. This little signature. Just chopping off a little bit. Make them fit underneath those grommets. Oops. Okay. Get this guy out of the way. And then we will tie these in. So I think I'm going to use my trusty elastic lacy stuff. I got this at the thrift shop years ago and it is so awesome. So you never know what you're gonna find, but you can use whatever you got. String, elastics, thread, whatever. You know, there's no wrong or right. I think I'm gonna, so you can do like a crisscross here. You can do one up, one down. You can do all kinds of threading. Let's see what we want to do. So I'm just going to feed it through here. I think I'm going to leave this open, so I'm going to feed this back through. And then I think I want the tie to be in the inside of the book. So in order to do that, I'm going to feed this through this one. And what are you chewing now? She's chewing something. And then up through here. Just kind of roll it. Feed it in. And now I have a strand here to feed them through. And on the outside, it only shows up around the ends, which I kind of like. So let's feed my first signature through. Where did I put them? So I'm just going to find the middle. And feed it. I like these kind of style journals just because I like the fact that I can change my mind. I can replace or add pages. I don't have to sew much. I just tie a bow, and that way I can always make adjustments. And then the other signature, right in the middle here. I think I'm gonna put him, maybe change this one a little bit and put it in here. And then find the center. So now I have my little journal made out of playing cards and scraps. And the front is decorated. Got a little journal here. Can still do something to the back if we want. And then I can start filling it with things that you know, appeal to me. For instance, this time it's going to be knitting stuff. So I did this little sketch the other day while I was waiting. Just something fun and, you know, inspirational kind of thing. You can do little sketches of little sheep or something. I don't know, let's just do just a little something. Make it a little journal card or something. So they're little ears. And then a nose. And do something like maybe they're wearing a hat made out of wool. I mean, possibilities, right? Endless. And then a big furry sheep coat, which you can have watercolor too and be so cute. You could put them in little knitted socks with a scarf. Just something fun. We could add pockets to these, so something like this. I have kicking around, maybe a bigger sheet. Kind of like to write on that one, so maybe this one. Something as simple as stapling it in. If I can find my stapler. Now that I said that, I won't be able to, so we're gonna glue. Maybe we will tape. I was gonna say tape, but I don't have that tape that I like. I used it all. My dollar store bandage tape. It's one of my favorite tapes to use in journaling, which is probably why I use a lot of it up. So I'm just gonna throw in a little bit down here. I'm not gonna glue the top. Just gonna get some pockets going that I can decorate later. What else have I got? Something like this. And you just keep going and going and having fun, making it your own little journal. You know, just whatever appeals to you. But that's a super quick, easy way of making a journal out of some big playing cards, or if you have some cardstock that came off Amazon packaging, something. I like to use something relatively flexible, but not too soft. So it's got to be rigid enough to be a cover, and I'll show you that in a second before I glue all my pages together here. Rigid enough to hold the shape of the book, but I like flexibility in my book. I don't, that's why I do the soft edge on the back. And it's all from playing cards. So maybe we'll decorate this. We'll come up with some more sketching ideas and have some fun filling her up. Let me know what kind of journals you guys are working on in the comments below. What kind of things you want to see, what kind of things you want to work on. All right, guys, that's it. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye.